Alicia, excellent.
So good afternoon to those of you who are coming slowly to join the webinar today. I can just see some of your names coming up onto my screen now. It's 1 o'clock, but we're just going to give it a couple more minutes before we kick off, just to see if there's anybody else who's connecting in. So we'll start in about 2 minutes. Okay, so I think we'll make a start. Thank you very much for joining us today. A very warm welcome to joining the webinar. So I'm Dr. Rosina Watson, as some of you know. I'm the head of the Sustainability Group at Cranfield School of Management. And today's webinar is part of a series that we run called the Sustainability Network Speaker Series. So we're trying to bring together people with a passion for sustainability, students, faculty, staff within Cranfield across all our schools, but also practitioners in business who want to learn more about a variety of topics around sustainability. And today, I think, is a really important one with a lot of relevance for many of you joining today. It's all about a career in sustainability. So I'm really delighted and very grateful to have two experienced sustainability practitioners with us today, Martin Gettings and Julie Dang from the Canary Wharf Group. I'm not going to say much about Martin and Julie. I will let them introduce themselves, but I'm really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say today. We really want today to be as interactive as possible. It's your opportunity to ask questions about what a career in sustainability is like, how you get into it, what capabilities you should be developing. So please do ask questions. I know most of you are probably really familiar with Zoom, but we're on a slightly different Zoom version today. We're on a Zoom webinar. So if you look at the panel at the bottom, normally at the bottom of your screen, you'll find there's something called Q&A. That's the place to ask your questions today, not the chat area. It's the Q&A area. So before we move on, I just need to say one more big thank you, and that is to Alicia Deer, who is a master's student on our Management and Corporate Sustainability Masters. And Alicia has organised today. She's introduced Martin and Julie to Cranfield, so hopefully they'll be friends going forward now. And she's going to moderate the rest of today's session in terms of fielding your questions, including fielding your questions. So I'll pass over to you, Alicia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosina, and thank you everyone for joining today. Just to go through a few housekeeping things, we are recording this webinar, sorry, in order to share it with others who aren't able to make it. As mentioned by Rosina, you can ask your questions through the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, and any questions that you particularly like, you can upvote them through that system. We will be asking questions after Julie and Martin have had a chance to present to us. And we're also using Slido today for interactive purposes, where we'll be asking you questions. So please can I ask you to download through the link or scan the QR code, please. Whilst you're doing that, let me just let you know a little bit about Martin and Julie. Martin's recognised as a leader in sustainability by ED, as well as Julie being part of the 30 under 30 group for 2020, recognised by ED. ED is the equivalent of Bloomberg for sustainability, environmental and energy professionals. So we're very, very lucky to have them with us today. So going forward, we would like to ask one question. So I'm just going to change my screen, bear with me. And in one word, please could you let us know what sustainability means to you?
Maybe just to reiterate what Alicia said, oh yeah, more people are finding it. If you scan the QR code you see on the top or go to slido.com and enter the code 85483, you will be able to participate in this. So we have 10 people so far who found the Slido link. I guess there are a few more who can find this link, please.
Sorry, can I just add, because I'm really old and not very technical, you just, the way you scan it is to put your camera on. I only discovered that a couple of days ago. Switch camera on and scan it.
Excellent, they keep coming in. Okay, thank you for that. We'll be coming back to that later. So I'm going to now hand over to Martin and Julie. Okay.
Okay, are you going to put our slide up, Alicia?
Yep, just trying to get it to change. There we go.
There we are. Okay, so we got it now, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for that introduction. And thanks, everybody, for those really insightful sustainability defining words. I did a quick screenshot of that. It's always really interesting to see how people imagine sustainability and what it means to them. I'm a little bit like Rosina. I'm not one of the techie ones, so I didn't get a chance to add my word on there. But if I was able to, my word would be alignment. And we're going to talk quite a lot about alignment in the next sort of half hour, 45 minutes. My name is Martin Gettings. I'm the head of sustainability at Canary Wharf Group. I've been in the built environment all my life and broadly split that into two halves, 15 years in construction and construction management, and the last 15 years in environmental management, and then moving into sustainability leadership. Julie, do you just want to say hello?
Hi there, just had to unmute. Hi there. I'll go into my bit after Martin, so you go ahead.
Great. Thanks, Julie. Sorry, we didn't rehearse that. So let's move on. Can we see the next slide, please? Alicia, did you get that? Next slide, please. So while Alicia's getting that ready, you can see the mouse flying around there. So what we're going to do, what we're going to try and do, if we can get the slides working, is tell you a little bit more about who we are, about what we do, about our achievements, our activity, our outcomes. Importantly, I think the audience today wants to know about getting into sustainability. Important also to share with you what we've learned along the way and what's next. You know, what's the future for, you know, for us in sustainability. So next slide, please. I think I'm going to have to give you a 10-second warning on the slide change, Alicia. It's obviously
it's on number 2. So do you want to go?
Yeah, number 3, please.
Okay. There we go.
So that's me. I did a raid of our old photo albums, and you can see my life story and my background there laid out. I think it's important that we just you know, understand a little bit about ourselves. I think it's relevant because it kind of forms the character. So there's 3 kind of interesting little pathways there that develop. You can see is that's me, age 3 in 1973. So if you do the maths, you can work out how old I am. Please don't do that. I've always been into bikes. I've always liked cycling and you know getting out and competing and doing things. And I've always been a little bit competitive. And you can see me there racing my arch enemy, Martin Winstanley, at the school race. I've just beat him, so that gave me a great deal of delight. And below that, you can see in recent years, obviously, I'm a keen cyclist, and I like to get out there and fiercely competitive. I can't stand to have anyone in front of us in a ride, so I always have to edge it a little bit more. A spaceman. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a spaceman, and don't think I could ever really achieve that realistically, but I did get as high as almost as high as the Shard. You can see us there stood above the clouds in London on the top of 20 Fenchurch Street. You can see us there beaming one Christmas morning with my favorite Lego crane. I've always liked, you know, building things and construction materials, and as I've gone on through my life, I've had the you know, been lucky and fortunate enough to play with the actual real bits of kit. So there I am with a digger around about 1991, and you can see us stood there next to one of the massive tunnel boring machines that came through Canary Wharf to construct Crossrail. I just was not missing the opportunity to get a shot next to that. On a personal side, as you can see, you know, the 2 ends of that little line there, I've always liked Lego. There I am a few Christmases ago with the Lego Millennium Falcon. Bought for a present for me nieces and nephews, but really it was for me. And in terms of family, I'm there at the top with the 4 most important ladies in my life. My wife Wendy, my 2 daughters Hannah and Hayley, and my mum there. And I've got a grandchild, Layla Sky, who's pictured there at the bottom, and you can see us there just in the middle towards the right, stood with my dad with the biggest, most brightest pink tie I could find. Stood in front of Canary Wharf, and I was very proud to get the role at Canary Wharf in 2011. So next slide, please, Alicia. In terms of where I work and what I do, it's worth just noting that you know, this is the area where we work, and you wouldn't recognise it. I mean, this is the shot of Canary Wharf, London Docklands, about 30 years ago. This area of London was absolutely derelict, economically, socially, and environmentally. And get ready for the slide change, Alicia, but imagine the vision needed to go from this wasteland to this. Next slide, please. That's Canary Wharf today. Literally a thriving metropolis, although it's not really quite a thriving metropolis at the moment because everyone's in lockdown with COVID, and that's given us a great deal of problems, and we might touch on that later on. But Canary Wharf is a 128-acre estate. It's 16 million square foot of commercial space, 4 transport stations, and the transport hubs are absolutely critical to the success of any urban environment. And we've got 4 of them there at Canary Wharf. We've had a big part in playing in financing and constructing those transport hubs to bring the people to the estate. 5 retail zones, 300 plus shops, bars and restaurants, 20 acres of parks and gardens, although from this aerial shot you can't really see them, and there is a perception that it's just a concrete jungle, but when you actually get on the ground and experience Canary Wharf, it's far from that. Lots of green space, lots of biodiversity and nature to enjoy. And on a normal day, we have 120,000 daily population that comes to work at Canary Wharf. So I've been in the built environment, as I say, all my life, and to get the chance to work here was absolutely brilliant. And to apply sustainability has been really, really rewarding, because it's my job to lead sustainability in this amazing place. And what attracts me to that is that I get to use all of the learning that that I've picked up over the years and apply here. But not only that, there's so much more to learn, because we're not done yet. Next slide, please, Alicia. Wood Wharf is our new residential district, and it brings residential to the already established commercial and retail portfolio. And it basically completes the mix. Canary Wharf's already a mini city, but it has all the components now of a mega city. So with residential coming on board, and what we do is we design, build, and manage these cityscapes at the very highest level, and that means quality, customer service, and reputation. And what does that mean? Well, sustainability fits into all of those things. More and more of our customers are demanding sustainability in the product that we offer. So that's what we do at Canary Wharf. But next slide, please, Alicia. But what about the way that we do it? In sustainability, we have 4 focus areas, and you can see them there. Climate action, beyond zero waste, well-being, all underpinned by responsible business. That's our long-term strategy, and it's my role to see that the business buys into this, it understands it, and it delivers it. I mean, we've got some brilliant KPIs: 100% renewable electricity since 2012. We achieved plastic-free commercial status, plastic-free community status. We're the first commercial district in the world to achieve that, and one of the first districts in London. We've been zero waste to landfill from our managed areas since round about 2012. Now, great headlines, but what's important is that behind all of those headlines, there's it couldn't be done without teamwork, collaboration, organization, communication, engagement. Really, delivering sustainability is all about being a really, really good project manager. You've really got to have project management skills to put all this together, to come up with a strategy, to understand about the timescales and how it's going to play out, what's happening externally, what are those external influences, how can you apply those in the area that you're working in, the corporate environment. So you really need a lot of factors and a lot of skills. You've absolutely got to have the technical understanding and the technical know-how, but you also need to know how to put all that together and to deliver that as a project. So next slide, please, Alicia. So for me, sustainability is about achievement. It's about credibility, it's about activity, and it's about outcomes. And not just on a corporate level, but also on a personal level. If you can apply these principles to yourself and to the business that you're in, you're generating a win-win outcome. So going across the slide there, I mean, I've taken this from a personal perspective to show that because I've achieved credibility in terms of professional membership through SOCENV and through IEMA, Sustainability Leader of the Year, that's me there being nominated for that. I've got to say, I didn't win that award, but there's no way I wasn't going to include the fact that I was shortlisted for it, and it was so cool to have my name read out by the presenter there. So to have these things is great, but to do that you have to do stuff. You can't just you have to be active in the space. I mean, I've spoken at some amazing places. I couldn't resist getting a little selfie stood outside New Scotland Yard. Who would have thought that I'd be there speaking to the combined forces about, sustainability and urban environments? I spoke at WWF. I've spoken at lots of conferences, mainly to do with the built environment, but I am now starting to get involved with others. I spoke at a Cambridge Institute of Sustainability leadership event, last year. I even got interviewed on Sky TV. There's a screenshot of us there talking about the plastic-free commercial status that we achieved. But okay, so all of that stuff is great, but what does it mean in terms of outcomes? Well, for Canary Wharf, it's important that we have that we have a really, really credible sustainability strategy to match the profile that we've got. And it was really, really rewarding to see that there at the ED Sustainability Leaders Conference, Canary Wharf Group appeared up alongside, you know, the likes of Marks and Spencer, IKEA, Unilever, Patagonia, companies that are renowned for having, you know, a really, really respected approach to sustainability. And it was really rewarding to see our name up there. You know, to get there, you've got to do two things. You've got to have the ability to amplify the profile and amplify all of the good work that you're doing, i.e. through communications and engagement. But if you haven't got a real purposeful strategy that's you know, that's credibly embedded and implemented within the business and recognized by, you know, professional institutions, you know, it's like yin and yang. You can't have one without the other. So it's my job to see that we absolutely have that strategy and that approach in place. But then I think it's also important that, you know, that we tell people about this. At the end of the day, we're a business. We're about attracting people, to businesses and people and visitors and employees to come to the Canary Wharf estate. And what, you know, that's changing. That attraction is changing, and sustainability is becoming a really, really big part of that. So next slide, please. So I think I want to just a little bit, I mean, this is about a career in sustainability. So I kind of want to go way, you know, sort of go back in the midst of time and explain a little bit how I got into sustainability. And it's this picture that is actually responsible for a lot. Although I was happy in my early career as a site engineer, you know, I absolutely loved that, to get on site and work with all of the equipment and build things and pour concrete and, you know, construct buildings. It was like Lego in full scale in real time. It was just absolutely brilliant to be involved in that. And I've always been really, really enthusiastic and keen in everything I do. And being a young site engineer was just a dream job. But something was missing. I wasn't quite content. I've always been, you know, I come from a very, very small village in the northeast of England, Lower Westwood. It basically had a row of houses, a school and a church, and that was about it. Quite a rural existence. So I always had like a connection with nature and trees and going out and enjoying the woods and the rivers. And here I was on a construction project, laying holy havoc to the projects that I was working on, cutting down trees and making a noise and making a mess. And I kind of wasn't too comfortable with that. I wasn't content. And I kind of, over the early years, a feeling in us grew and grew that, you know, I really wanted to do something about this. Then in, I think it was around, I think I've said 1993 there when I saw that picture, but it wasn't. It was actually a little bit later than that. It was in 1996 that I saw this picture, because this is the Newbury Road bypass. These are the protests, and this was unheard of at the time. There hadn't been this sort of like mass civil protest against projects for a long time. And you know, this picture here showing two girls have literally tied themselves to the tree, rather naively thinking that, you know, they're going to stop it getting cut down. And then you can see in the background the hordes of burly security guards. Most of them are sort of grinning and smirking if you look at the picture closely. And you know, there's two young people, you know, doing something that they passionately believe in. You know, they're making a statement, they're making a commitment. They're effectively lying in front of the bulldozer that's going to pull that tree down, you know. And when I saw that, I was absolutely outraged. I'd already been working in an industry for nearly 10 years. You know, I represented one of those guys in the hard hats in the background, and that wasn't acceptable to me. I thought, no, there's something that I've got to do something about this. But at the time, we not long had, you know, in my personal life, I had a 2-year-old daughter. There was another baby on the way. I had a job. I had mouths to feed, bills to pay. But I wasn't content. You know, something had to be done. You know, when I first saw this picture, I was all for setting off to Newbury and joining the protesters in line in front of the bulldozer. But that wasn't gonna, when I thought about it, that wasn't gonna pay the bills. And actually, it might stop. It might be. It might cause a little bit of disturbance, but that road was still going to get built. So what I decided to do, rather than going and joining the protest camp and climbing the tree with Swampy and all of his friends, I did something else. I stuck my hand up. I volunteered. I volunteered to be environmental representative on the project that I was working on, and I got that role. And what I realized, what I thought that might come of it over time, it might evolve into something else, and it did. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Okay, next slide, please, Alicia. You know what I've learned along the way. We're gonna come to this sort of career path in a little bit, but I just wanted to touch on, you know, the building blocks that have, you know, that I think I think are important to sustainability. You know, here we see the Sustainable Development Goals. If you're in CSR and if you're in sustainability, you'll all be familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals. And everybody sort of shouts, they've been out since 2015. You know, they replaced the Millennium Development Goals, and these are obviously the SDGs. Wonderful graphic, you know, wonderful icons, wonderful eye-catching colours. But hang on a minute, there's 17 of them. You know, are we really going to get to grips with 17 of them? Are everybody going to get to understand them? I mean, I'm a sustainability, you know, professional, and I kind of struggle with a complicated matrix like that. But Safia Mini realised this as well, and she actually has proposed an 18th SDG, and that's the power of communications. And I wonder sometimes that is the issue that we've got to find ways to communicate these issues, or is the issue communication? Is it all about communication? I would argue that it is. So next slide, please. I think an important skill and something that I've been told I'm good at is storytelling. And when we're trying to explain a concept, I mean, I've chose the example here of the environmental impact hierarchy, and we're all familiar with it as practitioners, but most times we have to explain this. We have to get this message across to people who aren't environmental practitioners. So we've got two ways of doing it. We've got the model there. It's like an upside down pyramid with an arrow going up and an arrow going across. And what we're trying to do is that if you start at that point, and if you reduce, what you're trying to do, and then if you reuse it, if you recycle it, recover it, dispose of it, you go down the waste hierarchy. And sometimes people get that, and sometimes people don't. But maybe if we tried a different approach. I mean, why have I got a picture of jet washers on here? Well, apparently, jet washers are sold. Their biggest customer are local authorities, and the local authorities buy all of these industrial jet washers primarily for one thing, and that's the jet wash chewing gum off the pavement. So when you think about that, we've got an issue here. We've got chewing gum, we've got the pavements, and we've got all of these jet washers. And do we really need so many jet washers in the world? Maybe we need less. So how they use electricity, they use water, they use energy. How do we resolve that? Maybe we find a way of getting the pavement to be sort of chewing gum resistant. That's going to be quite a challenge. There's a lot of existing pavements. We don't want to go around changing pavements. So what would be the answer? Well, maybe we just stop dropping chewing gum on the pavement. Maybe we provide more bins, but again, you're still creating something that's going into the system. So you're moving up the hierarchy. But actually, the solution is, let's just not have chewing gum. Let's give people alternatives. Let's give them bottled water or some nuts or some fruit as a means of a snack. So if you can tell a story out of something, you've probably got more chance of people remembering what the hierarchy is. So if anyone asks you about the environmental hierarchy, just tell them the jet wash and chewing gum story, and they'll probably remember that much quicker than remembering an upside down triangle with arrows pointing different ways. Anyway, I made the point. I'm trying to explain the principles through storytelling. Okay, next slide, please. And as well, something that sustainability is another important skill is finding ways to amplify your message and scale up the principles that you're trying to embed. I mean, we had a lot of success with the creation of a circular economy around coffee cups and coffee beans at Canary Wharf, and that's great. But really, we want to be creating circular cities. And because of the success that we had with the coffee cups, it helped scale up our thinking. And we were able to use that as an example to get the project teams and the project managers to think big. If we've created a circular loop around coffee cups, what can we do with our buildings? We're now in the process of implementing that same closed loop thinking for all of our buildings and cityscapes. And you can see through the pictures here, with our supply chain partners, we now prefabricate huge building elements that used to be formed on site. These building elements are formed in factories. They're assembled off-site and they're shipped to site as components. These components are easily installed. It's like Lego. It's like a giant Lego kit. And that's good because it removes the impacts from the site and it minimizes the impacts when they're produced off-site in much more controlled conditions. This means that buildings can be digitized. Those building components can go onto a sort of a citywide inventory, so that in the future these buildings can be deconstructed and they can be built elsewhere. So we're trying to create circularity en masse in our projects, and that's what we're doing at Canary Wharf. And it's all because of scalability. You know, think about what you can do as an individual, what you can do within a team, what you can do within an organization. And if you can scale up those principles, then you're well on the way to delivering. Next slide, please. So, you know, honed skills develop character, and you certainly need a lot of character to sell sustainability. And I wonder if anyone can relate to the cave people that are shown in this little cartoon here. Which caveman are you? I can certainly relate to that. I've been both. I've been the caveman at the front, pulling the truck along, and I've also been trying to be the innovator behind, saying, look, I've got a brilliant idea, guys. This is going to help you, but people don't want to listen. And what is it that stops people wanting to listen? What is it that stops people wanting to turn around and engage with new things? In a word, it's culture. And organizational culture is the #1 area that we need to align ourselves with, understand, and work with. I mean, the famous quote there from Drucker has helped me tremendously. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. I mean, the full quote: culture eats strategy for breakfast, dinner, and tea. Culture trumps strategy, hands down, every time. You can have a brilliant procedure, a brilliant policy. You can have all of the right words written on a document. You can go and present and pitch, and you can have a fantastic idea. But if it doesn't align with that culture, if it doesn't resonate with that culture, if it doesn't tune into the thinking and the mindset of the organization or the group that you're trying to influence, forget it. It won't happen. What you have to do is work with a culture, align yourself with that culture, and slowly over time, get it to think differently, get it to embrace sustainability in little ways. In some ways, it will leap as well. Cultures are very, very competitive and they want to get ahead of the best. So play with that. Use competition. Explain what other people who are leading in this space are doing. That can move a culture on leaps and bounds. Certainly don't fight with a culture. Don't try and battle it. You know, you can't win. You can only influence it over time. And to do that, you absolutely need character. So, next slide, please. Some of you might recognize this concept. Don't ask us to say it. With my Northeast accent, I always get it wrong, but it's a Japanese concept meaning a reason for being. And, you know, contentment does come, you know, I can vouch for this personally, that, you know, the nearer you get, you can move yourself to the center of that model. You know, the nearer to contentment you find yourself. And I think I'm pretty near the center, but where do you see yourself? And I think we have another question here, Alicia. I think we're gonna ask the audience where, you know, where they see themselves in that Venn diagram, and you know, what motivates, you know, what are the motivations for getting into sustainability? So here we are. You know, why do you? I think the question is, why do you want to get into sustainability? What is it that drives you? Is it passion? Is it mission? Is it vocation? Is it to, you know, for a profession? I mean, really, there should be a fifth answer. It should be all of the above. That would be the end goal. But I think what we're looking for here is, what would be your starting point? What would, you know, what would be your starting point to move, you know, to move into sustainability? I mean, just while we're getting the last few sort of questions coming in there, I mean, I only came to this concept of ikigai. I told you I couldn't say it. Quite recently, I've sort of only came to that model and that way of thinking in the last sort of 5 years or so. You know, but you don't have to wait. You know, you don't have to wait 25 years in your career to, you know, to come up with new concepts. You don't have to wait till the end to realize that you've found alignment. You can find alignment from the start. You know, you can work out a way to you know, to work with this and be a little bit more content and a little bit more happy. I mean, some people ask me, you know, how do you get into sustainability? And, you know, I've got sustainability as my day job, But I sometimes wonder, in the world that we're in now, I mean, 20 years ago, you know, for me, I was competitive and I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the project manager, the top project manager building one of the, you know, the big towers in London that I saw going up at the time. But I realized I wasn't good enough for that, because I would be competing with another 100 project managers who were absolutely brilliant. So I looked for a way to differentiate myself. And at the time, environmental management was new. And I knew if I got into that, that would be something big over time. I kind of sensed that that wasn't going away. And, you know, that's what I did. I got into environmental management, and it's sort of evolved into sustainability. I found that now we can have, you can have dual careers. You know, you can be a finance and banking can be your thing, but you can still do sustainability. You can be in finance, but you can be in green finance, you know, so you can merge the two. You can still follow your dreams and overlay sustainability with it and find that contentment and find that value. Okay, I think we've got all the responses now. So passion seems to be the most thing. So hold that thought. We're all passionate, but how do we harness that passion and turn it into tangible results? That's what we've got to think about when we move into it. It's great to be passionate, but we have to direct that. We have to find ways to direct that passion. So I'm ready to go back to the slides now, Alicia, if you are. So I think I'm sort of leading up to, if we move on to the next slide now, please, Alicia. Wow, that's a scary photograph, and it still scares me to this day when I think about the story behind that. So that's the brilliant John Markovich, and I've never met the guy. I'm sure he's wonderful and lovely and cuddly, and not as intimidating and scary as he looks in that picture. But I use this picture because he is the absolute spit and double of a project executive that I sat down in a meeting with when I started at Canary Wharf. In my early days there, I was sat in a meeting with I won't mention the gentleman's name, and I was trying to explain, where sustainability was going, and why it was important and why we should be doing it. I was trying to be really, really clever and show how much I knew about sustainability and how important it was. And he just stopped us in my tracks, and he leaned forward just like John Markovich there, and he said, "Martin, what would you have me do?" And it stopped us in my tracks. I thought, wow, that's a really hard one to answer. What the project manager was looking for, he wasn't looking to have the whole sustainability story and why should we do it. He just wanted to be equipped with the tools and the know-how to be able to deliver sustainability. And I realized that it was my job to find those tools and to equip that project manager with it. Now, what struck me was that he was looking for leadership. He was looking for me to take the lead and to give him the answers and to give him the means for him to be able to then go on and to deliver that, that sustainability that we were asking of him. And I think leadership is an interesting concept. And one of the things that I've found is that, we tend to, we're all looking for leadership. And I think even leaders are looking for leadership. Certainly the project manager that firstly intimidate us, but then help me see things in a different light. Certainly he was looking for leadership. And I think that we tend to look for leadership externally. Most people want to be led. But when we as practitioners find that we have that leadership within, because that's where leadership comes from, it absolutely comes from within. It helps build our confidence. And next slide, please, Alicia. And when you find that confidence, it really does help you spread the word. And apologies for another slide with my face slapped all over it again. But no apologies for the message that that I bring. I use the platform that I've got to really maximize positive impact wherever I can, because I believe that this notion of leadership coming from within. I believe that that famous quote from Gandhi there: "We must be the change that we want to see in the world." So as I say, that's what I do. I've found myself in a really great role that I can really use to exploit my experience and my sort of passion for sustainability on quite an interesting level. So I take any opportunity I can, to communicate that. And as I say, I'm only confident to do that because I know that we've built a business up that that has sustainability as one of its core characteristics. And we can all do that. You don't have to be head of sustainability at Canary Wharf to to drive this. You can drive this from whatever level. So next slide, I'm coming to the end now. I've only got a couple of slides and then we're going to hear from Julie in a moment. I sat down and I've actually just produced this just for this presentation. So it's a little bit rough around the edges, but effectively that's my entire career on one slide. And if you look very closely to the far left, I'm not going to go through every step of these. I'm just using this as an indication to see how I've built up from being at school and being a waiter to being head of sustainability at Canary Wharf Group. And you can see the steps along the way. It's been quite a steady progression. The foundations of it have been experience. I'm not somebody who's got a degree. I never went to university. I basically built up my vocational qualifications. I did ONC in building construction, HNC in civil engineering. I did a project management vocational qualification around about 2000. You can see that the sort of green qualifications from sort of 2007 onwards. I did my level 6 environmental management. And then it's really been professional sort of qualifications after that through the IEMA path. I'm now a fellow of IEMA. My latest qualification is Cambridge Institute of Sustainability Leadership, High Impact Leadership course. I've completed that. Qualifications are brilliant. They do help fill the gaps between experience and, you know, in your job role. But for me, they're not the most important thing. For me, the most important thing is experience and results, engaging with teams, delivering things through projects and you know, bringing it all together. I mean, I've tried to, you know, give you the building blocks of what I think make up, you know, a good career in sustainability. Starts with skills. Skills develop the character then develops the leadership. And the bit that I haven't really talked about is the kind of next level, you know, what happens next. And you can see I've kind of indicated to the, you know, to the right there, you know, to be confirmed, where is it going next? And that's the exciting thing about any career. You know, what are you going to do with the experience that you've brought along with you? Because I do believe any experience that you have in life or in work is very, very valuable, and you should never leave that behind. Don't carry it like baggage. Bring it along with you, but bring it as a toolkit. Bring it as a reference point, and you'll find it invaluable. But for me, the next thing is mentor. Is how can I use this experience to, you know, to give back. So I find myself, if you go to the next slide, please, Alicia. I find myself mentoring more and more. And I mean, I'm involved with all of these programs you see on the screen here. Obviously, Cranfield, this is my first sort of you know, engagement with you guys today, and I hope it's the first of many more. You know, it's incredibly pleasing to know that you can help not only individuals. I mean, I do mentoring on a sort of one-to-one thing, but I also mentor sort of other businesses through Cambridge Institute of Sustainability Leadership. You know, helping individuals, teams, organisations, and even whole sectors. You know, I mean, we've got quite a you know, credible voice now in the built environment. If Canary Wharf do something, a lot of other people are looking to see, you know, what a Canary Wharf do, and maybe we should be doing that. So it's really, really rewarding to, you know, to be in a position to do that. But the point I want to leave with, just as we hand over to Julie, is really, you know, good leaders. You know, it's all about creating the next generation of leaders. You know, leaders create leaders, and I'm very, very pleased to introduce one of these next generation of leaders, Julie Dang, who is going to speak for a few moments now on her journey. Julie, over to you.
Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Julie Dang, and I've been working at Canary Wharf Group now for nearly 3 years. And for the next 5 minutes, I'll be briefly telling you a bit about my role and how I got here. So my role involves a lot of stakeholder engagement. We operate in Canary Wharf in one of the poorest boroughs in London with one of the highest unemployment rates. So it's important for us to try and address this. So I work with local organisations and charities that help young people who experience a range of different barriers to find permanent, life-changing employment. I also encourage our staff to take time to give back to the community too, because did you know that most large companies allow 2 days per year for staff to volunteer? I mean, I think that's pretty cool because not a lot of companies do. So if for example, the staff wanted to attend a session to help a local student with job interviews, they can, even if it isn't within their job description to do so. So you can see how this can benefit the students, but it also empowers our staff. So how will people know all of these great things that we're doing. I'm one of the few people responsible for sharing and showcasing our efforts through social media, newsletters, and I've included a link, I don't know if you can see it, to our website for you to browse all of our responsible efforts. Now, is this the job I wanted to do when I was thinking about careers in school? I'll be honest, I didn't even know a job like this existed. I got a first-class honours degree in business administration at university, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Next slide, please. So I went to my first interview at a large recruitment company, and I kind of blew it because I didn't do enough research about the company, and because of that, I probably didn't seem that interested to work there. So do your research, find out, you know, the sustainability strategy, and see. Ask yourself, does it resonate with you? Be interested, ask questions. That's my first advice. So at this time, I really wanted to get my foot in the door after university. I tried to tell everyone that I could in case they could help me, and I think that's called networking. And it worked. A very good friend of mine told me about a graduate program where I could work in the CSR department of one of a range of different large companies. And I thought, at university, ethics was, you know, it always interested me the most. So it finally felt like a perfect match. And even though I thought I wouldn't be good enough, I still took the opportunity, and now I'm even more empowered, because if you want something, you have to be willing to come out of your comfort zone to achieve it. I guess part of my role is also to pass on my advice to all of the young people coming through our doors, because it's about improving social mobility. Next slide, please. But it doesn't stop there. With Martin's leadership and encouragement, this year I made it into ED's 30 under 30 class of 2020, which is a program that will give me the opportunity to connect with the best and boldest sustainability professionals across different industries. Having this network of professionals who share similar interests will help me develop in my career, as it's important to share ideas and work together to achieve greater things. Thanks for listening. Hopefully that was within my time. I really hope I've inspired and empowered you, even just a little, to be the best and boldest sustainability professional in your future careers. Thank you.
That's brilliant, Julie. I mean, we're at the end of our sort of presentation now. I think we've got another Slido question to ask, but I wonder, Alicia, before we go into that, was there any questions that have come in? Is because I think we're typically I've overrun a little bit in my delivery there, but I think we've got time for a number of questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe we should give the Slido a miss, as we've got a couple of questions and we're tight on time. So,
yeah, cool.
One of the questions that has come in is, in a business, is it better to have a big sustainability team or lots of people feeling responsible for sustainability? How do you get the balance?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. It's, I mean, one of the things that when I was interviewed initially for my role at Canary Wharf, I was asked, you know, what's your vision for sustainability here? You know, how will you measure success? And I turned around and said, we'll have sustainability so embedded, I won't have a job. And I thought that was a really cool answer, because it was kind of a nice way to turn it around. And that is, I would suggest, that is the practice, that is the sort of purpose of any true sustainability practitioner, is that they will take sustainability to an organization and they will equip that organization with the means and the know-how that it needs to deliver it. It gets embedded, and then you move on to the next one. Now, there's a lot of work to be done at Canary Wharf, and I think we might be there for a few years yet. But I would certainly suggest that if you can find champions, you still need a core team of professionals to act as the catalysts for this. So like Julie, myself, and there's others. I think there's about 10 of us at the moment, but we're responsible for nearly over 1,000 staff in Canary Wharf Group. And there's kind of a like 1 to 10 rule, or 1 to 100. You know, in your network, you can probably really influence about 100 people. So I think we've got 10 to 1,000 is about right in an organization. But it depends on the complexity of the organization as well. You know, But I would say a rule of thumb for a big corporate like Canary Wharf, it's kind of 1 to 100. But then the ultimate goal is that you embed sustainability, and that's what we're all trying to do.
Okay, a very popular one that's come in is probably for Julie. How do you structure your CV or sell yourself not having prior experience in sustainability?
I think what works for me is that although in my career I did do part-time jobs, you know, even during university, I didn't have any experience in CSR before this role, you know, and I did do a lot of volunteering, even if it wasn't directly related to CSR sustainability. It shows that I did, you know, use my time to kind of do other things. For example, like helping at a community centre. That definitely helped me in my role today. So that's a different kind of experience that would help my role now. So structuring your CV by adding more kind of volunteering experience.
Sounds good.
I think just to help with that very, very quickly, think about transferable skills. If you're doing something that's, I mean, what we want, you know, I've tried to say today, it's all about communication, engagement, you know, passion, collaboration, teamwork. These are the things that you need to deliver sustainability. Yes, you need the technical know-how, and you need to know a little bit about, you know, about sustainability, but transferable skills would be something that we would be looking for on CVs.
And another question that's come in is how can you work towards sustainability even if you aren't doing it in your main job? So what would you suggest for those that already have a different role rather than sustainability?
Well, that's my story right there. You know, I was a site engineer, I was in construction, I was doing things that were the opposite of sustainability. But I wanted to find a way to, you know, to change that and to turn it around. And effectively, what I did was I volunteered to be the environmental rep on that project. So if you're in a role, people are looking, as Julie said, you know, people are looking for volunteers. There's always things that need to be done around the office or in the workplace. Just bring suggestions to the business, you know. Volunteering is a great thing. It's not just about recycling. You know, if you want to get into, you know, ESG and sustainability, it isn't just about, you know, the energy management and the waste management. Volunteering is a great way to involve people. You know, do a litter pick, do sort of a plastic-free campaign in the office. Volunteer to do these things, and all of a sudden, once you start doing them and building the momentum, you've then got the experience of engaging with people. It might open doors. It might get you talking to the CEO. It certainly won't get you talking to the CEO if you just stay doing, you know, your day job. But if you push yourself forward with, you know, with the vision and the appetite and the passion, I mean, if you go back to the first slide, passion was number one. You know, on the slide or in halfway through, sorry, passion was a thing. Take that passion and find ways to direct it into, you know, campaigns in the workplace. You know, that's a great way to open doors.
And last question, because everyone's liked it, is, and I think you've summed it up slightly, but just to reiterate, how do you get skeptics to buy into sustainability? I'm sure you've come across a lot in your time, Martin, especially in the beginning when you don't have proof that initiatives will work and the impact you're hoping to achieve. Yeah,
brilliant. You know, I mean, that's the sort of big obstacle that we always have to overcome. You know, this is going to cost them money to implement. And what I would say is, how much money is it going to cost you if you don't implement it? Things have changed, and actually we do have the data now. You know, certainly in the built environment, you know, green buildings and healthy buildings and low carbon buildings are much, much more pleasant places to work. They're the buildings that are attracting people. We've got to look at this differently though. At the point of transaction, yeah, they may cost more, but no credible business is only going to look at the cost of a product at the cost of transaction. A business that understands, you know, life cycle and long-term, you know, thinking and long-term planning is going to know how much it costs to, you know, to run that building, to energize it, to maintain it. Green buildings use less energy. They can be less technical and have less maintenance regimes. So there's so many things, there's so many proof points out there now that you know, that you can call on, that you can use at your disposal to you know, to change that mindset. But I think the big thing is it comes back to this point of culture. If you're in a situation where you're having a conversation with skeptics, you're kind of not going to go far. You've really got to have the structured conversations to change the mindset of the skeptics. Agree with them, give them some little victories, give them some compromises, but always keep in mind that you're trying to turn the mindset around. You're trying to move that thinking away from its position of skepticism to a position of belief and ownership. That's where you've got to get them to. And it's a challenge, and there's no right answer for that. There's no one answer, but slowly over time, you bring this mindset around to your way of thinking. And a great tool for doing that is let them think it's their idea. Structure the conversation in a way that, you know, the ideas come from them, and all of a sudden they're running with it, and great, you know, your work there is done. It is hard. It is a challenge, though.
I can imagine. But with all that passion, it's amazing what you can achieve.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you think it's worth? Do you think, before we take any more questions, do you think it's worth doing the last Slido and seeing if things perceptions have changed, or do you want to take another question and we'll leave it at that?
I think we've not got much time, unfortunately, for more questions. But as you can see, Martin and Julie have provided their contact details, so feel free to reach out to them at either LinkedIn or on their email addresses. Martin and Julie, thank you so much for a really insightful webinar and presentation. We really, really appreciate it. I'm just going to move on to the next slide so that Rosina can quickly talk about the upcoming Future Sustainability Network series.
Thank you very much. So yes, you can see on your screen there a list of the upcoming talks that we've got going on. We've got a really exciting one next, 15th of July, from John Elkington. So this is the guy that coined the phrase triple bottom line. So if you really want to hear from a master talk about his view on capitalism and how that has to transform, please come to that. That's going to be a real treat, unmissable. The next one we've got on September the 24th is from Sharon Jackson. So she's going to be talking about sense making. So this is very linked to your point, Martin, about culture and connecting people at a personal level, but at a cultural level with the change that we need to bring about. So that will be a very interesting talk as well. Then in October, we've got one much more specifically about the energy sector and what's going to have to change to achieve net zero. A couple more future dates in your diaries there. I won't go into those in more detail, but please keep an eye on future emails about these. Before we finish, I just wanted to add my thanks to Martin and Julie. So much of what you said resonates with my experiences, what we've taught the students. So I hope that really underlines for them the importance of passion, culture, but also seeing this as a journey as well, as I think you laid out really clearly in terms of how you accumulate these skills and apply them over time. I also want to say a big thank you to the quiet people in the background who've been making this all work and hang together, helping with the slides, the webinar. So to Pam and also to Sabrina, thank you very much for being with us today and holding our hands through the process. So I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. Please do join us for future webinars. And Martin and Julie, I will definitely take you up on your offer to do more to work with us and our students and our faculty going forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We've enjoyed it tremendously. Thank you.
Great.
All that's left for me to say is, please can you give feedback? There should be something coming in the chat now, in the chat box, with a link for you to be able to click on the link and provide feedback. It's really, really important for the university to know how they're doing and how they can tailor their events and webinars so that they can better suit your needs. So it's really, really important. Rosina has said thank you very much to Pam and Sabrina. They've been absolutely fantastic in helping sort this out. And Martin and Julie, once again, thank you very much indeed.
No problem. It was a pleasure.